Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so excited to guide you through this one because we're looking at a genuinely fascinating economic relationship. We're diving deep into the massive, highly complementary, and honestly, largely untapped trade potential between two absolute global giants, Bangladesh and Brazil. Look, whether you're an exporter, an importer, an investor, or a business leader, consider this your comprehensive guide to unlocking some incredibly lucrative new opportunities in a rapidly changing world.
Okay, let's dive straight into this. Right now, the annual bilateral merchandise trade between Bangladesh and Brazil already exceeds $2 billion. Yeah, $2 billion. That actually makes Brazil Bangladesh's largest trading partner in all of Latin America. But here's the secret. That impressive $2 billion figure, it is literally just the tip of the iceberg. As global companies scramble to diversify their sourcing and move away from those traditional, saturated markets, the runway for growth between these two specific nations is practically limitless.
To help you capitalize on this, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Complementary giants, 2. Brazil's exports, 3. Bangladesh's exports, 4. Navigating challenges, and finally, 5. The BBCCI advantage. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. Two complementary economic giants.
And this brilliantly illustrates the most important thing you need to understand right out of the gate. Bangladesh and Brazil are not competitors. No, they are like two perfectly fitting puzzle pieces in the global supply chain. We're talking about two massive consumer markets here, roughly 173 million people in Bangladesh and a staggering 212 million in Brazil. But really focus on their core strengths. Brazil, with its massive $2.2 trillion GDP, is Latin America's undisputed powerhouse, right? It boasts abundant natural resources, advanced agribusiness, and tons of raw materials. Bangladesh, on the flip side, is the fastest growing manufacturing economy in South Asia, excelling in highly skilled, labor-intensive manufacturing. So you have one country producing the raw materials and the other with the massive industrial engine ready to process them. It's an absolute perfect match.
Moving right along to Section 2, Brazil's exports to Bangladesh.
So because Bangladesh has these massive export-oriented industries, they require enormous quantities of imported raw materials. This has turned them into one of the fastest-growing import destinations in all of Asia. For Brazilian exporters, this represents a literal goldmine of sustainable demand. Brazil's world-class agricultural commodities, stuff like soybeans, meal, and sugar, these directly feed Bangladesh's rapidly expanding poultry, livestock, and edible oil sectors. But it goes way beyond just food. Bangladesh is hungry for Brazilian wood, pulp, industrial chemicals, and fertilizers to supply its packaging and manufacturing base. Plus, as Bangladesh actively modernizes its own farming sector, Brazilian agricultural machinery and precision farming tech are suddenly in incredibly high demand.
I really want to highlight this specific figure, though, because it perfectly represents what bridges these two nations. Over $600 million in 2024. That's how much raw cotton Brazil exported to Bangladesh. See, domestic cotton production in Bangladesh only meets a tiny fraction of its massive needs. So Brazilian cotton, which is well known for its consistent quality and super competitive pricing, actually forms the very foundation of Bangladesh's world-renowned ready-made garment industry. It's absolutely crucial.
Okay, let's pivot and look at Section 3, Bangladesh's exports to Brazil.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that right now, the trade relationship is heavily imbalanced. Brazil is exporting way more than it imports. But for Bangladeshi business leaders, that imbalance isn't a weakness, it's a wide open door. During the 2023 to 2024 fiscal year, Bangladesh exported goods worth roughly $44 billion globally, and ready-made garments made up an incredible 85% of that pie. Now, while this definitely proves Bangladesh is an absolute juggernaut and a totally perfect supplier for Brazil's massive 212 million consumer retail market, it also highlights incredible room for sector diversification. It's that remaining 15% where we're seeing some of the most exciting future opportunities.
So, beyond just clothing, think about these highly competitive emerging sectors. Bangladesh is producing premium home textiles and leather footwear that can effortlessly supply Brazil's expanding middle class. And get this, Bangladesh also boasts pharmaceutical facilities that are fully certified by top international regulators. They're already exporting to over 150 countries worldwide. Then you have jute, often called the golden fiber. As Brazil aggressively pushes for more eco-friendly policies, Bangladeshi biodegradable jute packaging is just a match made in heaven. Oh, and you can't forget digital services. Bangladesh has this incredibly vibrant IT sector offering super competitive software development and back-office business services for Brazilian firms.
Which brings us to Section 4,
navigating global trade challenges. Because now we need to talk about the how.
So the opportunities are obvious, right? But how do you actually execute this? Well, here is your practical playbook. Look, it's true, there are definitely hurdles. Bangladesh and Brazil are separated by roughly 15,000 kilometers. That means long maritime transit times, usually involving transshipment hubs. You've also got language differences, Portuguese versus English, and just a general lack of market awareness on both sides. But modern trade has practical solutions for all of this. That massive distance, it's managed not by relying on faster ships, but through smart digital supply chain planning and strategic inventory management. The language barriers are seamlessly bridged by just investing in professional, localized business communication and translations. And that limited market awareness, you actively solve that through direct networking and targeted trade missions. It's totally doable.
Now, before you sign anything, you absolutely must understand the rules of the road. For any focused learner out there looking to protect their margins, mastering Incoterms is absolutely critical. Whether you're using free on board, cost and freight, or delivered at place, these globally recognized terms define exactly who pays for what, and more importantly, who carries the risk if something goes wrong out at sea. Trust me, agreeing on the exact right Incoterm right up front is hands down the easiest way to avoid some incredibly costly logistical misunderstandings later on.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a concrete strategy for Bangladeshi buyers. If you're importing from Brazil, you need a rigorous 6-step procurement strategy. You can't just chase the lowest spot price. That's a rookie mistake. Step 1, deep market research to accurately forecast your domestic demand. Once you have that, Step 2 is verifying your Brazilian suppliers. And I mean really verify them. Look at their actual export history, not just a flashy website. Next up, Step 3, make sure you thoroughly understand Bangladesh's import regulations and customs duties. For Step 4, prioritize safe payment methods. A documentary letter of credit is your best friend for those first-time transactions. Step 5 requires you to carefully evaluate and calculate your logistics lead times. And finally, Step 6 is taking that successful first transaction and forming a long-term framework partnership.
Now let's flip the script for Brazilian buyers who are looking to safely source from Bangladesh. Your 5-step method is slightly different, but it's just as vital. First, target Bangladesh's proven strengths. Stick to industries like garments, leather, and jute where they already have world-class infrastructure in place. Second, verify the factories. Independent factory audits are going to be your absolute best friend here. Third, communicate your compliance requirements super early. Things like Portuguese labeling, those need to be confirmed well before production even starts. Fourth, implement a multi-stage quality assurance process, from checking raw materials all the way through to final container loading. And finally, integrate those longer ocean transit times into your domestic supply chain planning so you're never caught running out of stock.
All right, Section 5, the BBCICI Strategic Advantage.
Executing all of these playbooks might sound a bit daunting, right? But you don't have to do it alone. Enter the Brazil-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or BBCII. They are the crucial catalyst designed specifically to bridge the gap between these two markets. And listen, the BBCII isn't just about handing out business cards at networking events. They provide hardcore, practical business facilitation. They do targeted business matchmaking to hook you up with verified buyers and suppliers. They organize direct trade delegations, which lets you completely bypass that limited market awareness hurdle by getting you face-to-face with partners. And crucially, they offer market intelligence and commercial due diligence. They will literally help you verify a prospective partner's track record so you mitigate the risk of fraud before you ever sign a contract. It's a real game changer.
So, the crucial point here is that thriving global businesses are aggressively moving away from isolated one-off transactions. Simply chasing a slightly cheaper price, shipment by shipment, that is a straight-up recipe for supply chain disruption. The real winners in the Bangladesh-Brazil trade corridor are the ones leaning heavily into long-term structural partnerships. It's all about creating sustainable commercial ecosystems rather than just transactional negotiations. And this is exactly what chambers like the BBCI actively facilitate.
The source material for this explainer really sums it all up with this incredibly powerful thought. Bangladesh and Brazil are no longer distant markets separated by geography. It is so true. Technology, smart supply chain strategy, strong institutional support, and a profound mutual economic need have effectively bridged that 15,000-kilometer gap. The complementarities here are just way too strong to ignore.
Which leaves us with one final provocative question. Those traditional, saturated sourcing markets you might be used to, they're becoming more expensive and less reliable every single day. Today, the actionable guide to entering two of the most dynamic emerging economies in Asia and Latin America has been laid out right in front of you.
The infrastructure is in place, the demand is skyrocketing, and the partners are waiting. So, are you ready to stop relying on the old ways and actually unlock the future of your global supply chain? The opportunity is yours for the taking. Thanks for joining me.